Have you ever done something which has made everybody think that you're crazy? Have you ever had an inner voice telling you to do something when everybody is telling you to do the exact opposite? Most importantly, have you actually followed through with that inner voice despite everybody going to think that you're crazy? I have been doing that all my life. I am Ravi Kapoor and I'm a risk taker. I'm also the victim and the beneficiary of the worst possible advice that anybody can ever get. And I'm willing to bet that you are too, because that worst possible advice that anybody can ever get is all around us. It's in our social media, it's in our culture, it's in our society. Let me show you something. Yeah. This is the face of somebody who is listening to a piece of advice that all of us have been told. Listen to your parents and teachers. This is a picture of somebody who's trying to listen to his parents and teachers. It's the picture of somebody who's trying really hard to be a good student and failing miserably. It is the picture of somebody who's trying to do something they don't really want to do. This is me when I was around 19 and I was obese, depressed, anxious, lost. And you see, the fact of the matter remains that I was lost because I was not following another piece of bad advice, which I started to do then, which is this: follow your passion. Everybody tells you to follow your passion, right? So I did that. And I followed my passion, and it took me into bodybuilding and powerlifting, in which I did quite well, to be frank, and I had some success in it. I represented India in the Asian Powerlifting Championship. I actually won the Mr. Delhi Championship in bodybuilding, and I have, all I have to show for it is this thing here. This little piece of metal, which is corroded and doesn't even look so good, is actually the hardest thing I've ever done. It is the thing that taught me something so valuable that it changed everything after that. This bad piece of advice taught me something about hard work and why it is completely wrong also. They tell you hard work is something that you need to do in order to achieve something. And it is something that you must do if you are to achieve anything valuable, but it is supposed to be hard and it is not something that you're going to like. And here is what I've found. It doesn't work that way. It does not. What's really happening is what you call hard work is you wanting something and then sacrificing some other things in the near future for it. And here is the research which supports it very strongly. This is landmark research by a psychologist named Walter Mischel. Walter Mischel, around 40 years ago, tested this on children. And then he traced the lives of these children across the years. All he did was, he gave children a treat. He gave them marshmallows. And he wanted to see the people who can resist eating the marshmallow. He said, if you do not eat the marshmallow now, I'll come back later, I'll give you 2 more. That's what he said. And he observed secretly which students and which children were able to resist that temptation and which were not. Then he traced their evolution, he traced their progress, and what he found was that the students and the children who were able to resist temptation had better life, they had better wealth, they had better income, they had better social status, they had better relationships, and this is what hard work boils down to. The ability to resist temptation in the moment. That is what bodybuilding teaches you. That is what athletics teaches you. I had to forget the taste of normal food when I was pursuing bodybuilding. And that taught me a lot. But there was a problem. There was a problem. That inner voice could not be silenced. It was still there. And even after having success in something which is so obscure, something in which not anybody would want to really make a career, when everybody was going to college, doing their engineering and everything to basically get their careers going, I was in the gym, preparing to be an international bodybuilder. Never reached the international level, reached a certain very good level in bodybuilding, but what it taught me was you cannot prepare for unexpected events in your life, and they are going to happen, whether you like it or not. One such unexpected event happened to me when I was playing rugby, and I got selected into the Indian rugby team, and I was playing a practice match when there was an accident, and a very severe one, which landed me in the hospital. Landed me in the hospital with my cheekbone completely broken. Cheekbone broken, landed in the hospital, came back home that day, that night, with bandages on my face and blood on my shirt. And then I come home And after having done this for 5-6 years and having a career, I looked at the face of my parents, and it made me realize that I cannot be doing this to them. This is not fair. Why had I gone down that road? I had followed my passion, which is good, very good. I had some success in it, even better. What nobody tells you is that you need to be able to monetize your passion. That's why it's bad advice. You need to monetize your passion and you need to include other people in it. It cannot be just a selfish driven motive, at least for me. That's why it turned out to be bad advice. So I thought, now I'll do something which includes my parents, which makes them proud, which gives me social recognition, and which puts me in that mainstream path. So I decided to do one of the hardest possible things a human can do, in India at least, and I wanted to be an IAS officer. So I started UPSC preparation. Now this is supposed to be one of the hardest exams in the world. I remember going to coaching institutes and I remember sitting in them, and you see, when you sit in the coaching institutes, you are surrounded by very smart people, very intimidating people. I remember being there and the person on my right was from IIT, person on my left was from IIM, person in front of me was from AIMS, and here I was from the gym. Bodybuilder in the middle of this crowd. I have no business being there, no business being there. But then another piece of bad advice saved my life. Another piece of bad advice, which is this. Ladies and gentlemen, talent and intelligence are fixed. This is what they told me. They said you need to have some sort of a history at least of success in order to prove that you are worth it. I had none. And this too, again, has a lot of research backing behind it. Research done by Carol Dweck, again, landmark research. This psychologist analyzed brain scans and many children came away with a framework. And the framework is very simple, but it's deceptively simple. It's not trivial, mind you. You can either have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, and this is something you already have as of today. A growth mindset is when you believe your traits are not fixed, changeable. Do you think intelligence is increasable? Do you think you can modify it? Really, truly, tangibly? Do you think that if you decided today, after a few years, you can clear one of the hardest exams in the world? Do you think that is actually possible? If you think this is possible, then you have a growth mindset by default. If you don't think, then you do not. Most people have a fixed mindset because that is what we are told. When people tell you to play to your strengths, what they're implicitly trying to say is you are what you are, now you do what you are supposed to be doing. You don't venture into uncharted territory because you are going to get beaten. But I did that because after having done enough bodybuilding, powerlifting, you realize that if you can change the body, then you can change the mind. And in fact, the body changes because the mind changes. I'd figured that out. So this helped me and I was able to clear the exam. But then another piece of bad advice. Again, piece of bad advice, people tell you maintain work-life balance. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no such thing as work-life balance, especially if you are doing hard things. You want to do something big, you want to do something difficult, you want to do something outrageous, there will be no work-life balance. You'll have to give up everything. You will have to become obsessed. You will have to do everything in your power day and night and day to do that thing. And that is what it takes, which is what I did. I did that in bodybuilding. I had to do that same thing in UPSC preparation. I had to shave my head. I shaved my head for 2 years while I was doing UPSC preparation. While I was doing this, I realized I cannot beat these very smart people, but I can outwork them. They will not be able to outwork me. I did that. I did not see sunlight for many days. Frankly, many durations, there were periods when I did not see sunlight. I did not see relatives. I did not utter a word. I was mute. Like you are mute in a silent retreat, I would not speak because I was engrossed. I don't think it was too healthy, but that is what it took for me. That sacrifice had to be given. Work-life balance does not exist if you are doing big things. Thankfully, this piece of bad advice also I did not follow. And that's what saved me. I made it into the IRS. I made it into, cleared the exam multiple times. And in fact, you know that classroom in which everybody was from IIT, IIM, AIMS, nobody cleared it but me. I made it into the services. I joined the civil services, joined as assistant commissioner. I had a number of really interesting assignments. I did anti-smuggling operations. I did a lot of policy work. I met very smart people. I had a lot of exposure. I went abroad. I was trained by the government. I figured a lot of things, but then again, that inner voice would not be silenced. The inner voice even now is telling me, it keeps on telling me, even during this phase, that this is not the end. Something is missing. What is missing, I do not know yet. But it keeps on nagging me, and it doesn't let me breathe. Everybody around me thinks I am successful. What I am is really unhappy. Why was I unhappy? I was unhappy because there was no chase anymore. There's no challenge anymore. There's nothing to pursue. The fun of it, the kick of it, the joy of it was in the chase. Once I had cleared the exam, the chase was over, and what I was left with was an emptiness. And that inner voice again telling me. And again, I did something ridiculous. I did something crazy, which I will show you. I resigned from the IRS. I actually quit my job in the IRS. This, in fact, is my resignation letter. One page, one piece, one line here, and it was done. I just went ahead and submitted it one day. I resigned the IRS and I did what I thought I wanted to do, but again, the inner voice remains. A few pieces of bad advice again, I had to resist, did not follow them. They say, seek job security. They say, don't take too many risks. But I figured that if you are audacious, if you are somebody who wants big things, if you are somebody who cannot be stopped, if you really truly believe that, then job security is the riskiest thing you can ever do for yourself. It's the riskiest thing you can do because it's the time that you can take the maximum risk. It's the time that you can do something which nobody else can do. Seeking job security is that thing. Did not follow that advice, thankfully, but it was all around me, I'll tell you that. Only my wife supported me. Everybody else around me wanted me to not quit. My best friends, my parents, everybody thought that I was crazy. You might also be thinking that. Maybe it is true, I don't know. But we'll see. So, it brings me to a very powerful poem by Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken. And to quote him, he says, 2 roads diverged in a wood and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. I did take the road less traveled by, and it did make all the difference. But the question that I have for you is, which road will you take? And how will you know that the road that you've chosen is the road that will make all the difference for your life? How will you do that search? Do you also have to go through these meanderings and these long tangents to arrive at a point that someday in your middle age you arrive at the place you want to be, or do you think it can be shortened? And I propose to you that it can. The promise that I had made in the beginning of this talk will soon be fulfilled. And I will show you how that works. I realized, ladies and gentlemen, life after the IRS became better. Became much better, became much more fulfilled. But what I realized after the IRS is that all my life, this is what I had been chasing. You see, we are chasing experiences. All of you, all of me, you, everybody. We're chasing experiences. Experiences are created in the brain. They are not created in self-help books. They are not achieved by rewards or medals. They are created by the brain. And essentially, what we understand as happiness, success, motivation, all of these big words boil down to just chemicals in the brain. These are 4 chemicals. There is dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins. And I'll tell you why I was optimizing for this all my life and why you are optimizing for it also. You see, dopamine is the chemical of the chase. It is not the chemical of the reward. It is the chemical of the chase. The dopamine is what got you here. The dopamine is what makes you reach out into the future. It's what makes you seek. It's what makes you want to achieve. It's what makes you want to work. This is what brings us pleasure. It is not the reward. It is not the outcome. It is the chase. The chase is the prize we all seek. It is what I missed when I joined the IRS. I had no dopamine anymore. There was no challenge. There was no fight. There was no risk. There was no kick. I got plenty of it when I was doing bodybuilding, when I was doing the UPSC preparation. But then it's not the complete picture. What you lack, what I lacked, was social impact on other people. I had no impact on anybody else apart from me when I was doing bodybuilding, and serotonin and oxytocin are responsible for that. This is what makes us feel love. This is what makes us feel warmth. This is what makes us feel like we belong. We are social animals, and we need this. This is what I was seeking when I joined the IRS. Wanted to make my parents proud, wanted the social recognition. Good, got it. Plenty of serotonin, plenty of oxytocin, no dopamine. You see what I'm saying? Endorphins are what make pain turn into pleasure. You push yourself to a point, at the breaking point, you cross your pain threshold, and you will find pleasure beyond. Which brings me to the last piece of bad advice, ladies and gentlemen. The last piece of bad advice is that addictions are bad. Everybody tells you that addictions are bad, and it is understood as gospel. It is considered to be dogma and something which cannot be challenged. I propose to you that that is completely wrong. Addictions are not bad. Addiction to bad substances is bad. Addictions to the right stuff is what life is all about. In fact, what you see here, these 4 chemicals, are the most potent addictive cocktail available to man. When you start getting this from your life, you become unstoppable. This is what we are all chasing. When you have this, happiness and success is the same thing. There is no difference. What you will feel is motivation, drive, compulsion, passion, empathy, all combined in one. So my suggestion to you is get this dose. And my conclusion for you is this. What we chase are experiences. Sarvam anubhavati, everything is an experience. Experiences are created in the brain, so choose the right dose. And if you do, you will be unstoppable. Thank you.